I want to welcome you all and first and foremost say thank you for attending and thank you for your work as appointed counsel. Truly appreciate the work that you do on behalf of your clients. I also want to give a huge thanks to the Akron Bar Association for being so willing to host this. We truly appreciate being able to use this space and the nice outlay of food that they have provided. I would be remiss if I didn't give a huge shout out to Deb Matz. I imagine a number of you know her, both in her former role with the county and her present role with the city. We've been working with her for a number of years to bring this to fruition here in Summit County, and she's just been a great advocate. Alex in the back has stepped in and also been incredibly helpful. So really want to make sure we just give all the appropriate thanks. And as said, I'm Tim Young. Here along with Matt and Rob, we're going to be co-presenting this. I'm kicking this off, obviously. Want to really talk about, we are shifting over to online billing for appointed counsel bills. Summit County has volunteered to be our first county to roll out, and we are so appreciative for the leadership being willing to work with us. We really are proud of the product we have. I am not going to stand up here and tell you that it's perfect. I think we've got about 98% of what you all will need and use. But like with anything on that first iteration, that last 2%, we really need your feedback. We need your help. We really need to know what you want out of it that we may have missed or not thought through completely. So please, we really, as you start to use this, we really want to hear back from you about how we can make it better, more useful for you as a system. To give you some idea of the need for this system, our office receives 11,000 on average, 11,000 handwritten fee bills. Some of them typed, most handwritten, a month. It's not an annual number, that's a monthly number. It's an extraordinary amount of paperwork coming in. It represents $180 million annually paid back to the counties. So there's a huge need to make the system more efficient, both for you in terms of timeliness of payments, understanding where all this is going, but also the accountability for $180 million of taxpayer funds, what we're doing with those, how they're being spent. So what we're hoping we have accomplished is a much more efficient system for you, a system that allows you to not just enter the information very efficiently, but also understand where your bill is in the process, for example, or be able to see where it's sitting in terms of, I've now submitted it. It's at the judge's approval step, or it's now at the auditor payment step. You'll be able to get information about those. You'll also be able to, through some fairly easy search capacity, understand what you've been paid on and what you haven't been paid on. There's easy output to be able to show all of your cases and the warrant number from the auditor to show payment, those kinds of things along the way. So we're really pleased with where we are in development. Couple of things I want to make sure I mention as we get going. If you want to bring up the agenda for me. Couple of things that I think are really important. One, this is not a case management system. This is a billing system. It is to not identically copy the paper bill that you are creating today, but it's real close. Okay, it is not designed to be a calendaring system for you. It's not designed to be a whole case management system. And with that in mind, it is not a privileged database in any way. Just as the paper you submit today is not privileged in any way, it's all public record when you submit a fee bill. Everything you put on that paper, the moment you submit it, it's a public record, both reports. It's a public record when it reaches our office. This database is a public record. There's nothing in here that we designed to be privileged. We have mapped almost every field, so your choices are from lists. You're not free-forming any text or data that would allow you to put in any information that would be privileged about your client or about the case itself or about your thought processes about the case. It is a billing database that tracks very closely, not exactly, but very closely to what you're doing on paper today. But in no way does it ever ask you for information. There are a couple of places that comments can be put in, but they're more about why the bill was rejected or why your bill was reduced. those kinds of places. And so perhaps the judge puts in there and denies the bill because there was no financial disclosure form from the client, please attach one. So that would be the kind of comment that would be included in this system. But nowhere can you include a comment about my client has a mental health issue and we need to get a psych review. That's not available anywhere to put in here, nor do we want to know. We want to make sure that there's never a question about this being a public database and a public record. So we want to take you through, obviously, that's the overview of OPD Online, how a case is created, how time and expenses are added, and not just for your fee time. Yes, sir.
Question,
Yes, sir.
has this system been through beta
In terms of,
well, beta,
and what do you mean by beta? Because
I
I think
mean,
that
what
could
I
be
mean
double
by-
different things.
what I mean by beta is normally when you put together a system like this, you go through beta. I used to be a VP for a tech company, okay? At any rate, you know, you let them work on it, and during the period of time that they work on it, they're able to point out certain specific things or improvements that need to be made. That's beta, okay? And so what you would do is you would take a system like this, you put it in beta, you test it out, then you would release it. Now, you've mentioned that 98% correct, right? Okay, what's the 2% that I need to know about? And the other question I would have too would be, you know, what type of help desk are you going to have? And in terms of the help desk itself, is it going to be, are you going to be able to talk to somebody, or is it going to be like a chat? Because I find that a lot of these systems and so forth, they say right that they can give you online help, very difficult to use, extremely difficult to use. But what question I have is, you mentioned that 98% there. What's the 2%?
And that's what we're hoping you can help us with. And
Oh, we are the beta.
no, we've been using this in our office. We have been inputting data into this system for quite some time.
Years now.
So that we are now in a production environment. We're out of our test environment. That 2% are user desire. So what kind of reports back do you want to see out of this system that we haven't got? In terms of those are the kinds of questions. In terms of the input and difficulty of use, I think you'll find it very intuitive to use. In terms of being able to input a case and put your timekeeping on the system. In terms of the help desk side of it, it's a live virtual meeting available in terms of, or just phone calls with us. All of those are available.
Yep.
Chat system is not something we have up and running where you're going to be sitting there waiting for a chat return, but an easy Teams meeting with us in terms of being able to walk you through this so we can share screens and show you through that. We also are very dedicated to a hands-on support during the first week of rollout. And so, you know, the rollout will be in common pleas, adult only. Those are the only cases we're looking for starting March 1st. And the reason we have a monthly start is because we do reimbursement back to the counties on a monthly basis. We need a clean break in terms of that starting date. We get audited every year by the state auditor. We need to be able to report our data back to them very carefully and understanding where that clean break happens for us in terms of a state agency, and that use is really important. So we've chosen a month to start, and that's March 1st. After the rollout, we will then obviously be working on expansion into the municipal courts, appellate court, juvenile court will be last. The one place of development that we're still working on are on dependency and neglect cases, so we haven't even thought about that in terms of rolling it out because we're not out of beta on those cases, just on those. But the rest of the system, we're very confident with where we are. Yes, sir.
Quick question, you mentioned that the reimbursement on a basis. I know one of the issues that we had here, we turn in our fee app, it's 2 or 3 months before we get a check. Is that going to eliminate that delay in us getting paid?
I wish I could say yes, absolutely. Look, Ohio is a local control state. Counties do things the way counties do things. We don't pay your bill. We pay the county back the entire amount, okay? So our payment is based upon what they paid you that month. The system will provide a huge amount of information about where those delays are occurring. So you'll know why it took 2 or 3 months after you hit submit bill of where that bill was sitting. Was it sitting in a judicial office or was it sitting in the auditor's office? And for how long before it moved on to the other one will now be absolutely transparent to everyone, including you, obviously, as the user and the person who submitted that bill. So you know where it is and how long it took to get there from one place to the other. So I can't make a judicial office move your bill along any faster by use of this system. I can't make the auditor pay it any faster. It certainly provides a lot more transparency. It certainly provides a lot more efficiency than this paper having to physically move from space to space. So we are very hopeful that the answer is yes. But again, these are local processing choices. We're providing the tools to use that, how it's used, how efficiently and effectively, again, local situations. 88 different counties, 88 different systems. Yes.
I just will say, having talked to the physical office and the county about this, it does streamline the process.
Okay.
So while I understand the same can't make a decision on behalf of some county, the anticipation on behalf of the county is that yes, this will streamline the process. All you want to make is turn over a lot.
One other thing I wanted to mention, since Andrew spoke, is this isn't our first foray into this kind of area. We are providing a full-blown case management system to just about every public defender office in the state today, including Andrew's office. So we have great experience with both the training side, with supporting the software, with responding to our clients and their needs in terms of the data that they need and the reports that they want back. So we've been doing that for years at this point in terms of our development of a full-blown case management system that we already provide. So this isn't new to us. This isn't a new experience in terms of where we are. In terms of questions, and I'm not trying to shut them down, I would ask that maybe you hold them until you see the presentation. It makes it much smoother in terms of understanding how the system's going to work. Write them down, make a note to yourself. I promise we will spend as much time as you want answering your questions. But if we do them in the middle, it just keeps breaking up the flow of how you enter a case, how you then enter time on a case, how you enter extraordinary fees on a case, how you enter an expert bill, all of those pieces that are included. And it does do all of those things. Expert bills, transcript bills, travel, if you have travel invoices, all of those are functions that are already built into this system and ready to go. So with that, the final thing we also want to do is make sure you understand what the judge sees once you submit the bill. So we'll be making sure that we go over what the judge module looks like in a very short form for you. So once you've submitted a bill, you understand what's being submitted to them and how they can or may not change the amount that they decide to pay you on that case. So you are aware there has been a change in Ohio law recently. The administrative code now requires that a judicial officer enter a reason if they cut your bill. For any reason. If they cut your bill, they now have, we don't require the reason to be of some certain nature, but they have to put something down about why the bill was reduced. That's now a requirement under the administrative code to qualify for reimbursement in these cases. So that includes cutting extraordinary fees. If you make a request for 500 in extraordinary fees and they cut it down to 300, they still have to give a reason of why it was reduced. So much more information available to everyone in these cases. I don't want to go on any longer. I want to get to the presentation. I'm going to turn it over primarily. Matt and Rob are going to be doing this, but we will all be commenting at some point throughout all of this. So I will turn it over at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. And that last slide did say that there was a training site. You'll have a URL and a QR code that'll have basically right now it's these videos. This is just something that we kind of spun up and put online so you could go back and see it. If you have staff or other attorneys that could make it, you can show that. We'll have a full-fledged training portal inside of the reimbursement application when you guys can log in. As speaking to help desk and all of that, there are 6 of us on the team. We are very responsive, in my opinion. You will talk to one of us, most likely start up via email, and then we will talk to you in person. So we are very aware that we're really the only line between frustration and quitting on this and making it work. So we're dedicated to helping you guys out as much as we can. We are the team. This is not something that we contract out or anything. We're the ones that helped design it. We're the ones that helped you guys figure it out in the help desk. There's help desk directly through the application as well. So I just wanted to go over that real quick. As far as the application itself, there's nothing to download. It is a website, reimbursement.opd.ohio.gov. You will have single sign-on and multi-factor authentication to get in. Those are all state run, so we leverage their logins. If you guys have created citizen accounts, they're basically like that, but they're specific for our program. We'll show you the logins as we go. Every user, we want to have their own account. So these are office silos. So if you have an office with multiple users, both attorneys and staff, we would ask that everybody get onboarded into OPD Online, and you will be acting like an office when we onboard you. So right now, this is not automated. We are the ones doing the actual onboarding of every user. Eventually, we would like to have this streamlined, but again, you guys are the first, so you get extra attention. Good or bad, right? So each user will have unique credentials, non-privileged, and March 1st. So I don't know if Tim went through the whole March 1st, but we will no longer at the OPD for reimbursement be accepting paper bills starting on March 1st. So everything that is common pleas, general division, adult has to be entered no matter what phase of that, if it's periodic bill before or whatever, anything that you enter has to be through this system. We will not accept paper from that court starting March 1st. So this is kind of cutting that off and trying this because we want to be all in, we want to figure this out. And again, good or bad, you guys are the guinea pigs, we appreciate it. I say guinea pigs, but we have vetted this, we have tested it back for our reimbursement team is very stringent on these things and working through all of their requirements. The 2% that we talk about is the 2% that is specific to your guys' process that we just don't know yet. So we think we've taken care of most everything that we could think of. It's just, we don't know what we don't know. And that's what we're going to take your advice and build it. If it's something that's so necessary that needs to be included. The sign-on, again, is just through OHID. You go to reimbursement.opd.ohio.gov. It will take you to this login. You put your user account. You make up a 16-character password that changes every 6 months to get in that front door. And then we go to MFA, multi-factor authentication. There's the Verify app. There's email. There's phone. There's text message. So you have a lot of options to get that verification done. That is every 24 hours, or if the system reads a risk. So if you change Wi-Fi, if you change IP address, you change things like that, it might read you as I want to make sure this is you, and it will have you verify again. But otherwise, it's a once a day thing. And we can go through all of that as well. You can change those at any time. We'll give recommendations of which two to choose. If you have both of them on your phone number and you on your phone and you don't have your phone that day, you might be out of luck. So we have recommendations as far as that MFA as well. And then the system itself logs out every 30 minutes. Those are all state requirements because of the information. And people can get paid and bills and all of that. We just follow their recommendations for it. Yes, sir.
Log out 30 minutes of inactivity.
Yes. 30 minutes inactivity. I'm sorry. That's good clarification. So mouse movements, anything involved in any of the boxes, etc. So yeah. The features. So we talked a little bit about office level logins. It's also office level security. So information that you have on your cases and bills, judges and auditors can see, but nobody else inside the system can see that. It is siloed into you. If you're a person that's a one-person office, to just you, or if you're a 10-person office, to the 10 of you. There are case and billing searches. That'll make more sense as we go along, but you could search for bills that you have submitted. You can search for cases that you have created. Create cases for various reasons that we'll go over, but it's create a case first to do related cases, periodic billing, transcripts, experts, investigators, things like that, and create the case first. We have, on the case form, kind of what I went through there with, also ability to edit anything that you've entered in the case opening process. Then we have the bill, the fee app, which is, where you can upload the financial form. At that point, you can do single billing, you can do periodic billing. On final bills, it requires certain closeout information like you would on the paper form, such as disposition date. And then you also have an individualized queue and workspace. We can talk about the workspace next. But the workspace is basically your open cases. So you can double click into any of these. This will be there for you on the workspace. You see the left nav up there has the workspace, cases, and billing. Pretty straightforward. There's not a lot to interact with in there. And we've tried to make it as similar of a process as you have with a front page and a back page for a piece of paper. And getting the financial form. So we tried to make it that way. And then we'll go into more details, obviously, about the outliers, related cases, periodic billing. But in here, you double click on those, it takes you to your case. Once you close out a case, it disappears from that. And then you have one less case to worry about. You also have a My Queue. You guys won't see a lot in the queue, but you will see it in that second tab, the in process. So we built it out so that the My Queue is anything that you have to act on. So if a judge denies something back to you and it's in your queue, get a notification, come in here, and you can act upon that bill. Anything in process, you will see, and you can see in the table here, we have the caps, the reimbursement amounts, the clients, the application status, which I feel like is one thing you might find important because it says awaiting judge approval, awaiting auditor approval, where it's sitting, you'll be able to find out as it goes, and then case disposition dates. Those are more for, are they gonna get reimbursed? Are they timely? For our purposes, obviously, you guys get paid through your process, so probably that application status is more important. But any of your bills that are currently through up until they're reimbursed are gonna be in that process. This is the first video that we have, just to walk through the case process. Robert's gonna take it from here, but the way that we're doing the training is kind of breaking it up just to show you each of the features. If you do a single bill from start to finish and have all of the time, you can do it in 4 pop-ups. So you just add the contact, the information, and the charges. You add your time, you generate your bill, upload your form, and send it on to the judge. Technically, that's all you would need to do for that for a single bill, final bill. What we're gonna do here is kind of show that first pop-up, talk a little bit about that, talk a little bit about the timekeeping, talk a little bit about the case form, and then we'll go over the bill. So just not to be confused, you don't have to do it like we do it. It's just we're trying to show you everything in a way that made sense to us as we were building it. Hopefully it makes sense to you guys, but final bill, you can go straight through with just pop-ups. You don't really have to interact with the system much at all besides this. So, yeah.
All right, good to be with you, everybody. So as what's your name, sir? Ken, as Ken mentioned, new systems, new features, it at times can be overwhelming, confusing, especially if you don't have the support on the help desk side. As Matt mentioned, we're really dedicated to this and making sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible. We want to give you something that's easy to use, easy to understand, and allows for you to get paid for the time that you worked on cases. So as you see here on the screen, I'll back up a little bit. This is going to be one of the forms or views that you'll become familiar with over time after entering cases and getting time at it. It contains 3 major sections here. So it's going to include your client information, the case information, and charges. So all of that information should be pretty familiar to you with interacting with your client. We do have some required fields on here, so do take a moment to notice those. Within the client information, we have 4 that are required. That include the first name, last name, date of birth, and last 4 of social. We have talked about instances where we understand you might not have that. In that case, you could enter in 0000 to facilitate that, but we want to make sure that we are able to distinguish between who's who in this system, and allowing us to have that information facilitates that. So as we play the video here, you'll see that information get entered. It's pretty self-explanatory, pretty straightforward. As I've mentioned, you need the required information for client information. And then for case information, there are some more fields that are required. But the information should be readily available: the case number, the attorney on the case, the case type, things of that nature. And we've also mentioned that we have fields that are preloaded with the information you should expect to see. So for the ORCs, proceedings, things of that nature, you won't have to worry about trying to type out the code. You can just type in the first couple of numbers or letters of that code, and it'll pre-fill for you. So all of this is an effort to, as we've mentioned, streamline this process, make things easy to get into the system and get processed. And this screen you see here is crucial in allowing for easy to use interface to get your information in as quickly as possible. This entire video here is 2 minutes long, but that's taken time to actually show what's going on here. So you can easily get a client entered in within a couple of minutes.
Yeah, there are 10 required fields plus charges. We'll go over what those are. Obviously, they're the ones that are starred, I hope is obvious, are the ones that are required. We'll go over each section in a little bit right after the video. But the ones that are starred are the ones that are going to help both us keep individual clients individual, and I think they're pretty much reflected on what you guys already do on the paper. The case attributes that you just saw, every case is automatically billable, and every timekeeping entry you do or expense entry is billable automatically. So that attribute isn't going to be necessary in the future. We will show you in a slide what the attributes are and why they matter. But
Yeah, and just to highlight here, on this screen, you only have 3 options. You can either get out of what you're doing if you've realized you're not ready to add this client into the system. You can save and view that. So what that does is just allow you to view the information that you just entered and interact with the timekeeping to enter time. Or you can just skip right to adding time for that case and get that bill submitted if you're ready to do so.
Idea behind that is to let your workflow be your workflow. Some of you may want to enter the case the day you get it, and then each time you do something, enter time on it. So as the case goes on, many of you may not do this till the very end of the case when you're ready to submit the bill on the day it finishes. So when you get to that disposition date, that's when you go ahead and create the case and enter all the time at once, copying it over from your calendar or however you maintain that time function in your office. So it's available either way, any workflow that you want. It doesn't require some formatted process. If you want to wait till the end, it's absolutely fine to wait till the end. If you want to do it as an ongoing matter, so you can track each entry as you go, also absolutely acceptable.
Yeah, so what we do in this example is we hit save and add time. And what that does is that brings us to the timekeeping modal where you can enter that information. We'll get into more detail about the features that are there, but that consists of just adding a client, what that looks like, and your options available for getting to the next steps.
One thing with clients is that, the reason we ask for those 4 pieces of information as required is, kind of a few reasons. One, we want to keep our information and data, consistent and correct. We want to keep our database consistent and correct. And also, we want you to create, a client and be able to add cases and know that that is a client. And the same person. So, if you're creating duplicates all the time, that does get confusing. We ask, we do check for duplicates. Once 3 of the 4 required pieces up there are entered, it will check for consistencies and see if it is, or if that person is already in the system. We ask that you just click on that. So that little box that says test client, with, no address and 1111. Is, if you click on it, it will fill in everything else already in there. The top 4 pieces of information are shared across the database, meaning it can be the same person that, you guys have, that maybe they traveled and are also in Cuyahoga or another, any of these other counties. But the, phone number, street address, apartment number, city, state, and zip are yours alone. So though that information is office specific, it's really the only thing that we have that's kind of case management system E in here. We wanted to give at least an option for you to record those things in a spot that you would get to it because it's attached to a case, because it's attached to a bill. Those are all office specific. If you overwrite it, that's the new phone number and new address for them. But we did at least want to give that. Middle name, race, and gender are not currently required, but we ask that you fill it out anyway, if you know those things. We understand that sometimes date of birth and social security number last 4 are difficult to get. You don't always get them. Please ask when if you're the ones filling it out. We know that the public defender's office is aware if they're doing the financial forms. We'll be reiterating this to the judge's office that that information that we need and you guys need. So just wanted to also put that out there. As far as case information, case types, felony, community court violation, community control violation, I'm sorry. Those types of things are what those are. We keep that for related cases, for billing purposes, to separate if it's the same case number, multiple, so you actually separate them by billing because they are the same case number. Case attributes, we'll go over in a second, but are more for appellate world. There are things like excess of 25 years, guardian ad litem, appeal of a felony, appeal of a misdemeanor, appeal of a trial, appeal of a plea, all those things that directly relate to the cap. A lot of what we require, reason we require it as well, is that we've built the caps and rates into the system. So when the counties give us that information, we put it into the OPD Online and we show you what the caps are and what the rates are as you're going through and generating bills. So you're not surprised at what those are. It takes the highest level charge usually, especially in common pleas world. If you have a felony 1, you're going to get your $8,000 as a cap. If you get your F5, it's going to be the 3,500, or I can't remember exactly off the top of my head what it is now. Rates that are populated. So it takes the highest charge that you have entered out of the charges. Currently, I think on the piece of paper, you guys have 3 lines for charges. We would ask that you put everything on the charging document into the system because now you have the, and again, it does take the highest level. County court, judge, attorney, all of those also fill in the drop down as you go. So if you pick Summit County, the courts will filter. If you pick Summit County, the municipalities will filter to only Summit County's municipalities. If you pick common pleas court, the judges will filter down to only the common pleas judges, just so that it's easier to find and easier to work through. You can do them out of order if you want, they just won't pre-filter for you. The visiting judge information, so we do recognize that visiting judges happen. This is maybe one of our 2%ers things is making sure we have this worked out. right now, knowing what we know, our recommendation is gonna be to enter the assigning judge on that as the judge that signs the bills. Unless we hear different and as we go, we might have to change that, but that is how we want you to act. If there is a conflict between that judge and the case, we would ask that you go to the administrative judge. Again, those change and aren't easy for us to keep track of and all of, because we're in the whole state. You guys are better at knowing who that is. Just send it through. So that would be messaged to the judges. Just wanted to message in here today that it is something we have thought of. But again, maybe a work in progress. Case attributes. So again, these are them. These are the ones that we've come up with so far that are not, don't calculate the cap or determine the cap through just the normal case opening. They're the special cases, they're the outliers, they're the very specific things that are related to a very specific cap because of what the background is. Again, most of those are appellate work.
Or,
26B.
26B. Ineffective appellate counsel.
Charges. So we have 3 slides on this. The first one is yeah, the first one's the type. So you can actually go in and just start typing in the charges area, either the number or the naming convention that the ORC has for that charge, and it will filter down and find it for you. We did take the ORC's naming conventions. We didn't colloquialize it or simplify it where sometimes things get a little confusing about how they name things and they don't seem related at all. So we did both the number and the naming convention. So you can just go straight there. However, we do have types that will either filter or for muni be specific. So ORC is first level charges usually. Proceedings, I jumped down, but proceedings are usually after that initial. So new trial motions. Again, a lot of appellate work will be living in what we consider proceedings. Specifications hopefully speak for themselves. They're the specifications. The reason we separated those 3 as well is that you can change the count if you want to pay attention to what the specification relates to. The gun specification relates to this assault. You can do that, say count 1, specification count 1. That was the idea behind that. And proceedings don't have a count. You just keep adding them. So otherwise the count progresses just naturally as you add them. So it's, again, usually we say whatever's on the charging document, just put them in an order like that and it'll record the counts. I don't think that's anything that we've necessarily audited, but it's a just suggestion by us. And then municipal code. So when we get to muni, we have preloaded all the ORC codes. There are too many ordinances for us to pay attention to too many municipalities. You will have to enter the ordinance codes in the future. That's another training. It's not this one, but that's why that one's there. So really the charge and the degree are the required fields in this area. If a degree is there, usually they are, especially in this room today. And then we do have culpability. So if it is an attempt, conspiracy, complicity, you can add that as well. Then you just click add and you can add as many as you want in there. You can also right click. So if they have 15 disorderly conducts, or maybe that's wrong court, 15 felonious assaults, you can right click and add 15 just automatically. So you don't have to keep adding and adding and adding. We at least have that.
Charges are entered as charged. So for example, you had an assault that became an attempt on disposition. You enter the assault with this. That's what you're billing for. On the disposition is where you would interpret it flat out with the attempt. But here you don't come back and change it, is what I just want to point out. You wouldn't come back and change it here that it became an attempted assault, which is a bad example, I know. But just, it's the charge that came down from the court. What does the charging document say? Is what goes.
Got another video?
We'll take a little bit, now that we set up how to get a case in, how to add charges, we'll take a little bit of time and talk about how adding time works, what that looks like.
Next question before you move on, so setting up the case, say that you have, you've entered the wrong, either the name is wrong, or maybe you entered the wrong case number, is that stuff that can be edited, or does that require you to restart?
Yeah, so if you look in the background here, you can kind of see what we call the case form. If I had hit save and view as opposed to saving at time, the save and view takes me to that case form where all that information is available for you to edit prior to submitting to the judge. Once you submit that bill to the judge, though, that information is locked in.
You can edit anything.
So I'll draw your attention to the fields that are being highlighted here. Those are going to change based off of the activity type that you select. You'll also have the ability to add any files that are relevant to that case, to each activity type that you enter. And then once you get all your time entered, you can either save and view that as we just talked about to kind of see what you've entered, make sure it all looks right, or you can just generate the bill if you're comfortable with everything at that moment. I'll pause here just to highlight that the fields, as I've mentioned, the options change based off of what you choose. So if it's an out of court activity, we're just looking for the start date and the hours and minutes worked on that. If it's in court, it's going to ask for a little bit more information to show what time and day that was actually taking place on. So again, going back to Ken's point, very easy to use, very intuitive. There's not things that are there that you don't really understand or buttons that don't make sense. It's you choose the activity type, you choose the appropriate time that was worked, and then you attach any files and you click add time, and it'll tally up all those time entries that you've entered, and you can either submit the final or periodic bill for that.
This is one area where it differs a little bit from your case. It's not just in court or out court. They're very generic activity types, but a little more specific than what you get.
What about the situation where you have one client on the first page, you're putting in the identifiers, but this client has multiple cases with different dispositions? For example, we have many clients that might have 3 or 4 or 5 cases. They have new charges, then they have old charges that are in the nature of intervention violation or community control violation. Will the system allow us to input a multiplicity of case numbers for the same client, but not multiply the time? One time frame dealing with many cases transacting at the same time.
We're gonna get to that. Yes, we've built that in where you have multiple cases for this client. They have a revo pending prior case, new charges coming through. So you've got both of those. We call them related cases. There's a way to relate the case. There's also a way to very easily build that second case, just copying over information from that. And we'll get to that to show it to you. And then the time we track through together. So when they're scheduled together, we track through together.
I call them my frequent flyers, but
Yeah, we all have used that term, I believe, at some point. But one of the things about the in-court time is requiring that actual times were there. Your hearing was at 10, and actually required knowing that you were in court from 10 to 11, and the system does audit that, would prevent you from entering that time anywhere else in the system that you did another case at 10 to 11 on that day. It would tell you, sorry, you've already used that time.
In this new system. And I appreciate you going through this. Time to time, will be request for extraordinary fees.
We'll get to it. Yep. Yep, just hold your- Yep.
Was there more specific to that further?
No,
It's in there.
do adjourn this count, you can see how it's gonna translate.
You know, you guys are good at questions. That's why we're like, let's hold off. We'll see if we cover.
Yeah, see if we answer it.
Hopefully we have a good answer.
So as we finish up here on this video, you'll see that on the far right-hand side of this screen, you'll have the option to either edit or delete any entries. It's not a situation where you enter something incorrectly and you're like, oh, how do I get rid of this? You just easily hit the trash icon and it takes it away. We hope that most of the features in the application follow that same thought process. Now, I will highlight the 4 options at the bottom. You can either, again, get out of this and say, I messed up altogether. I don't want to do anything with this. You can, we can talk more about what back means, but the 2 that are important are save and view and save and generate. Again, you can either go back to the case form or you can go ahead and generate a bill if you're comfortable.
So as far as timekeeping goes, we have built in some messages for circumstances. 16 hours, it stops you at 24. There are future development ideas to be able to accumulate your daily and show that visual only on a calendar. It's something that we have almost existing in one, we'll call it alpha version, but it's something that we intend to create to help out if you guys find that useful. So we're constantly trying to think of things to grow this, to be clear on each of the users' kind of modules. Right now we have your cases in your queue like we've shown you. We intend to talk to you about what other information you would like to see readily. Everything is searchable, but again, you know, it's nice just to have it in the workspace. So those are things that we will work on and consider with you. And you can attach files. We haven't talked about files too much yet, but you can attach them here on each timekeeping. Those all transfer over to the bill. If you submit this time and bill it, entries for extraordinary fees will transfer over, and you can do that in the pop-up, but also at any time on the bill, you can enter that it's in your queue, basically, before you submit it to the judge or if it's submitted back, you can enter documents on the actual bill. So I just wanted to highlight that as well. And we'll go over it.
So here, we'll spend a little bit more time looking over the case form, how to edit the information that you've entered, the options available. There's a couple different ways you can generate a bill. You'll see in the top right-hand corner, there is an attorney bill, expert bill, and transcript bill. Pretty self-explanatory. Attorney bill is going to generate that fee application. The expert and transcript bills are geared towards more specific situations where you would use those options. But getting into here, you know, you've made that error, you come in and you'd have the option to update the relevant information. So what we show here is just each modal, what it looks like, what editing that information looks like. Each field has the pencil icon and easily allows for you to update any information that is out of date.
Yeah, the only one, so the client is the only one that we don't want you to edit because you created that client. If it's a different person, we would ask you to track the case and put it in a different person and recreate it. That's the only way. Everything else is editable. But because we're trying to be very particular about who our clients are in this indigent defense system, that's the only one that we've determined at this point. That's not editable.
I will pause here and highlight right below the yellow circle is that related cases area that we talked about. Just a couple of options there. You can either create a new one and there's just a couple of steps with that, or you can relate one that's already in the system. I do believe that we might click on the create new here, but we'll see. Yeah, so it brings up this pop-up. You can include information automatically, or you can choose what you would like to include, and all you need to do is choose a case type and then enter in that new information for that client and save that. And that'll create that companion case.
So if you'd had the revo already and then they caught the new charges, from the revo, you could immediately create that new case form without much other than clicking a few buttons and typing in the new case number.
Yeah, so hopefully when you get to this form, unless you have situations like that, there really shouldn't be much interaction that you need other than entering your time. And it shows here how to do that. If you wait until the end of the case, you just come in, click that pencil icon and start entering your time that you've tracked. And yeah,
So to go in a little bit more detail about related cases, I think it's slightly different than how you asked it, but it is timekeeping that is shared. So if you want to share the time between cases, we don't have a place where you just add all of the cases. You actually have to create a separate case for each of them. We just created this module that pretty much all of the information comes over to that new case, and you don't have to do anything with it. So it is there as its own case in case it ever got severed. You can do that, treat it as its own thing. But when they're companion cases, such as two felonies traveling together, same court hearing, could have been under one case number, type of thing, or your CRA, CRB, TRD, TR, whatever Bs, whatever other numbers you have, those things travel together, and it's basically like the same case because of plea deals and time and everything. You just relate them, and then your time goes to all of those numbers. So it's a little separate than how you were thinking about entering it, but it's in here. So we'll have explanations on how to do that down the road. But you can also relate existing. So if there's something that you're doing periodic billing on that they do now travel together, you can relate them. So you can have the two cases in the system that you are doing something on and combine them in a later date. So there are two ways with that. You can also, I think on the next one is severing them. So if they all of a sudden do have different court dates, or here's the copy over. So this is information you can copy over. So you just pick a case type, client, case information, court, judge, attorney, everything can come over. Charges if you want them to, if they're the same. So really you'd have to enter, I think, case number and maybe one other piece of information. And that's it. And then you've created that new case. You don't have to do anything else because the client, all that information is over there. So next one is we take the cap. The cap is determined based on the highest charge, and it's also based on the primary case. So if you've accidentally made the F5, the primary case, you can switch it. So that the F1 is the primary. Right now, that's what we pull from. In the future development, we might be able to sort through all of that and find the highest charge, but the simplest way right now is just put the primary as the F1. Then you can switch those, or again, if they separate and all of a sudden you've got two trials, you don't want to build them at the same time, but not at the same time, separate, and do them as individual bills. Also on our case form, the reason to create a case is that's where we have the expert and the expert, investigator, and transcript bills. So those are going to be in the top right. You can add your normal bill as you go. You can add expert, you can add transcript. Experts is just a expert type. You'll have ability to upload an invoice and an amount if necessary, and then certify that it's for defense purposes only. So if you're not the one entering the invoice, it's not a requirement. Judge can do it if the invoice goes to the judge, or you can. So that's one of those that's you can either enter it in the pop-up or you can enter it in the bill. And then for transcripts, I think it's one more. We do you basically are just certified. You're just starting the process saying, I asked for transcripts, I certified for defense purposes only, and then on the judge's side, they enter the stenographer, they send the stenographer the information through our system. Stenographer fills out all the information, including the price and everything, and you guys are out of that process. So you don't need it. involved in that process once it's been granted, so.
If I can, one of the reasons that's very confusing, we get a lot of questions around, the state, when we say certified for defense use only. And I think a really common example is like translation. The person who's translating in court for the court is not for the defense, that's for the court. It may be because your client is not speaking English, but that's not for the court. The translator we pay for is one to translate your conversation, the private conversations with your client. So that's the example. We don't pay for the court's copy of the transcript. So again, it's your transcript. So when we say certified for the defense only, we commonly get bills for translators. That's a real common thing we get, that are the court translators. They hired to come in and translate the trial. That is not a bill that gets paid for by the defense. That's a court cost of operation. So just so you understand why we ask for that certification, thinking through that. Is this person providing general services for everybody in the room, or is this person actually providing services for you and your client to be able to communicate in a privileged way? And the question, yes, sir. For the time that if it's the same person, one, we would never recommend doing that, but I know it often happens. Because then the person has privileged information and they, studies have shown it can impact how they translate what's being said publicly based on their prior knowledge of each other private conversation. But assuming that you believe you have one, then it's only the time that they spent on your side. Court, that's a court cost. That's a court cost of operation.
And just, we didn't bring it up, in the, login process, you will also create a 4-digit PIN that will be your e-signature. So, we read, background information about who's signing, where you're signing, all that, but it's the e-signature. That's what judges are gonna do. That's what you're gonna do to, certify these over to the judge and submit them. That's what you'll be doing when you're saying that, yes, it's for defense purposes only. We kind of missed that, but, a 4-digit PIN will be, your signature in this system. One of it. Also bring that.
No, thanks, Matt. Now moving on, now that we know how to add a case, we know how to add time. We're going to talk a little bit about submitting a bill. So that's what this video will walk us through. So you'll see on here, I've got my time added. I'm going to click save and view to look at the case form, make sure everything looks as I expect it to. And then you'll see we have the options in the top right-hand corner that either, you can do it in the previous pop-up or you can choose that option. A couple different ways to do that. Here, you can review the information that you've entered for a second time, ensure that everything looks the way you expect it to. And then in the bottom right-hand corner is the option to generate the application. Once you do that, you get even another step to look over everything before you submit it to the judge. Make sure the hours are being calculated correctly, things of that nature. I'll pause here as the bill loads just to give us a second to take in the information. So it's following the same format that you've seen throughout this entire presentation. You're going to see your case information at the top. It's going to have the information that's specific to the client. Below that are the charges. So it's just going to copy over what you've already entered into the system. And then where you'll probably spend the most time is looking over the third section, which is the billing. Once we scroll down a bit here, you'll see we have a timeline to show when you submitted the application, when it's been approved by the judge, when it's hit the auditor's queue. You'll be able to see that it's awaiting for approval from some step in the process. So to those questions of, does this improve upon what we currently have? I think this really helps with that. In addition to that, you'll also have those 4 boxes that are below that allow for you to keep track of the time that is billed on other cases that are out there in the system. So you could find more information there. To the far right, we have the caps for the case based off of, like Matt's mentioned, the charges that you've entered and the degrees. And if there's any extraordinary fees on that application, there's a section for that as well. We'll go into a little bit more detail about what that looks like and how to interact with that. And hopefully it answers any questions that we have out there.
Is there a way that we can get a copy of what we submitted for our?
You got it. Yep. Give us 1 second and we're
You're always
We're-
just.
yeah, you're just one step ahead of us. Yeah, so as you'll see, the in-court and out-of-court calculations are already there, so that math is already taken care of. And then to the far right, we have the final calculations on any travel expenses and attorney fees that were generated for this bill. We've talked a little bit about file management documents. You'll see this file management section here. So if you have copies, invoices, anything relevant to that case, that's where you'll upload that.
Commonly the financial disclosure.
The financial disclosure, exactly. We've talked about an option for comments for going back and forth with the judge or parties involved on the case. Again, those are public comments, so that note is there to remind us of that. And then there's just 4 sections at the bottom to give more information on that client, any related cases that they might have out there, any applications that are sitting out there, things of that nature. But as far as the bill goes, that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. Allows for you to verify your information and make any comments and add any documents that are needed to facilitate this process.
Presently, the county requires us to submit their own form, they want our vendor number. Whether or not this is a new felony case. We're giving it to you, or it's gonna be a duplicate file for us.
In terms of the vendor number, they're now matching vendor number through your attorney.
So that
That,
last
the
page,
fiscal office, we've been working with them prior to this, and so they have a matching through your attorney number.
so
So
that last page we will include.
So here, we'll just go a little bit more into more detail about what uploading a file looks like. So you're familiar with that process. It's just a couple of clicks. The first one's gonna allow for you to choose from where it's at on your computer. And then the second one just gives more information about what the file is. So in the case of an indigency form, you would just specify that here as you see, confirm that. And then add any more documents that are needed for the bill. I will pause here. We have the option to choose whether or not the form is signed. Also in this pop-up that you see here. So I'll rewind a little bit. It's before, right when you hit the submit to judge, you're going to see this pop-up, right? It's going to ask you a couple of different things. It's going to ask you, is the form signed? Is it an interim or final bill? And if you have extraordinary fees on that case, it's going to allow for you to either accept, the cap or ask for extraordinary fees. So that'll all be in this pop-up that you see here. So in this example, I'm going to choose that the form is signed. That's already taken care of. And then what we show is what the final bill looks like. So I'll pause for a second once we get there. So I've selected that it's a final bill. It's going to give me a couple additional options based off of that. One of which is going to be the disposition for the case and also the date of that disposition. As Matt mentioned, we do ask for a 4-digit PIN for electronic signature. And you'll see here, this will be one of the areas where you'll enter that information. In this example, I select that it's a interim bill, which allows me to proceed without entering any additional information besides the PIN. And just want to highlight, so the bill is now with the judge. It's awaiting the judge's approval. And as we've mentioned, as we highlight here, that those timestamps will be there for your ability to see where things are in the process.
Extraordinary fees, here's the pop-up. So, our system will read upon submission, totals, accumulate how much has been, entered and, relate that to the cap. This example, $2,500 is submitted on a $2,000 cap. It gives you how much is over, gives you the option to accept the cap and move on, or, request extraordinary fees. We did a free text, well, not free text, numeric only, but a field there, you can accept 500, you accept whatever, or request whatever. And then it has the option to attach the motion. So all of that is in there. That's what the judge will get. That's what the judge will see. They will be able to look at the extraordinary fee. If they do any adjustments, they will be forced to make comments. Those comments, again, public record, will go in the comments section. You will be able to see those. Yeah.
So the motion for extraordinary fees to be attached to the upload.
So yes, it will be attached as an upload either here or in the bill. You can do either or. There was a question earlier about you still have to send it to clerks, and the answer right now is yes, you still have to do that. So it would be one to get paid and one to actually file it, clerk it. If that was a follow-up question, I'm not sure, but I just thought because we didn't get information about that from the clerk's office, they had asked, and that was there. Also the printable PDF. In the top right, we have a button that says print to PDF. All the information that you have entered, because we built this system off of the paper form to make it familiar, we can fill it into the paper form for you. So it actually will have signatures if they have been signed in that part of the process. So at any time you can print it, but as it goes through, the signatures like e-signed will be in the correct areas from the judge and the auditor. But as you can see, the client name, your name, the timekeeping entries, all of that have been transferred over to this paper form for you to download, print, file away, make paper airplanes with whatever you want to do with it for your information. But it is there, and it is all the information that you have.
What the log?
What's the long form?
Log, L-O-G, log,
The right side of the in-court, out-of-court?
the detail.
This is what we have. It's 2 pages, front to back. It's 2 pages. I don't know what that is.
The one where we can put any detail of exactly what we did,
Okay.
and from that, we can print that out to show that detail. Or print this one out, so.
Yeah, I don't know what that other one is.
We don't have that. It's a local form. That's not one we
Well,
support.
it's actually from your office.
A log form.
Log.
We don't require it.
I mean, the itemized fee statement is the only thing that we have. That has the in-court, out-of-court expenses, all those tallies. That's the only one that we have. This is the judge video. It's very similar. We just kind of wanted to put this up there to show you that the bill that you sent to them is the same one that they're gonna see. So, Robert, if you wanted to talk through it a minute, but it's.
Yeah, no, you'll see that, this was submitted by the attorney, at a certain date, at a certain time. The that'll send a message off to the judge, whether email, notification in the application, and let them know that they have a new fee app waiting for approval. So again, talking about, expediting some of the things we see, the hiccups or delays. Hopefully this will be one of the things that helps with that. Again, we tried to make things as consistent as possible throughout the application. So, they'll see a lot of the same things that you see as the attorney, but just have additional options that are specific to their roles as judges.
So as far as the indigency form as well, so it will give you a warning if you submit it to the judge without an indigency form. You can do that. The judge can upload one themselves. We gave them that ability. You can also upload one, let's say your client's incarcerated, and they can't sign it. The judge can certify. So if you have uploaded one, the system will reject anything that's not a financial form. It will actually read what the format of whatever you uploaded is if you choose indigency form, but the judge can certify it there just with a click of a button. Talking about adjustments, extraordinary fees, line items, or totals, the judge can also adjust those. If they adjust anything, the comment section is required. So it will not let them do something unless they have made a comment. That's in lieu of any entries or anything, but it is, again, part of this record, part of a requirement that they're going to need to go through. We don't have any drop downs for it. We're seeing kind of what the reasoning is, what they're saying about why they're lowering the bill, but it is required, whereas I think in the past it had not been required and they could do it kind of at will.
That requirement and legal change that's reflected in the administrative code was vetted with the Ohio Judicial Conference, who approved it. Thought it was good sense that we understand why bills may be denied or reduced. So please understand this wasn't something that's coming from us. This was something that those who speak on behalf of the judges across the state also thought was a good policy to understand why bills are being reduced.
Again, at the bottom, they can see, they can get into upgraded applications. The judge has no access to any of your cases. So those cases are all yours specifically. They can see cases that are related, but they get very little information about, or just the basic information about all of those. So the only things that they see are the things in this bill. They don't get the cases section even at all in the left nav. So they don't have access to that. As far as auditors go, the only things that they can do, deny, enter a check number, enter check date, and approve. So that's really all that they have access to. Yes.
All right, so do all this stuff. Is it possible for us to send a note to the judge? Yeah.
No, so we have a comment section that judges will get notice of. That's the only place that we have any like free text ability to do that.
The second thing is, when these notifications go out, now these notifications coming from, or are they coming through your office?
Through the system.
system.
They're automated through the system, the notification that a bill has been returned to you, that you need to act upon. They're automated to the system.
Yeah, right now, the only one that we have built, and again, why we want to get feedback is any large movement. When it comes to your queue, you're gonna get an email notification, a bell icon, and an in-app pop-up. Those things in the future, you can edit and work with. We just wanted to start off with something to see how that would work. So,
A lot of notifications, you put email.
yes, email.
And a pop up in the system. When you
Yep.
sign in, you'll also be
So they-
notified that you have something waiting in your queue. And that's what the comment is for. If the judge has rejected it, you should be able to see why it came back. Just need to add the financial disclosure.
Well, I'm concerned about us commenting to the judge.
You can write a comment.
For example, with a client. For whatever reason, wants to get a new attorney. And they're refusing to sign. Affidavit.
But you can put on their client refused to sign.
Yeah.
So that they understand they can certify it without that signature. Instead of sending it back and forth about why don't you just go get a signature? Or a client is in prison, unable to obtain it.
Well, I see this exception. But I don't understand why, when the cases are coming up with this, certifications are automatically done instead of making estimates. I'm sorry, I didn't understand. So what I don't understand is that in these cases that are determined that they're eligible for the council, that judge is assigning the fee app, so we're not basing.
Not chasing the actual form to fill out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's gonna be something that I think like, we'll talk with the judges and work with, they have the ability to enter that.
This is one of those local decisions, not just county to county, but court to court, by whether they certify or whether they require the lawyer to have. And we built those options in, so the judge can certify everyone.
Yes, sir.
More general question about that. Presentation. So you submit the final bill. And a year later, the client reaches out, prepare a motion for judicial release.
Yeah.
So you're in the same case, you've already submitted a final. bill.
Any new matter is gonna be a new case.
You can,
We don't
you can
call it-
create a new case for that.
So you'll
Same
create a
case.
new one with a new case type.
So it'll be the old case number will be in the information, but this will be a brand.
Correct. The case type will be judicial release.
Yeah, it would be considered periodic.
No, it's a brand new bill.
The final bill.
Because it doesn't- Periodic is something that's going against one cap. This is a brand new matter. So you get a brand new cap.
Juvenile is the most common time we see interim billing, where you have a case that's going like a dependency neglect case that goes on for quite a while, and you're submitting bills every 3 months for the work, for a case that goes on for quite a while, and there's a single gap. We see it most commonly in juvenile. Not to say you can't, we also see interim billing on the death cases quite often.
Well, I guess we're confused there is that. IILC violations. Well, once victim of those abuse, now all of those abuse are in the one thread billings, but now they're brand new cases.
Correct. New matter. Yes, sir. Yeah, you get a new cap for it. Starts anew. Yeah, that time doesn't count towards your $3,500 or whatever cap on that F5 anymore. It starts a brand new cap. Yes, sir.
I heard you say earlier that, take for example, during court, about the lady is trying to enter and
It's like 11.
it'll say, or use that. There's a lot of examples where you're in all of the times you have other attorneys in the cloud. You better get billed for that time, get it wrong.
Two ways. So for the just general time, there are, I think, 13 types that require you to be in a place that you can't overlap time. So that's kind of the first part, just to caveat. Wasn't sure if that was part of the question or not, but everything else requires hours, minutes. So just how long you were working, we don't require the exact time. As far as people covering, everybody that is in our system will be in our system, will be able to be entered on a timekeeping entry. So there are certain things that will count against your time, and there are certain things that will not. So we made exceptions.
On that single time entry for this pre-trial, John's covering for you, you would specify his name and or attorney number, which are in the system. You don't have to find, pull them down, assume you don't know what it is, and enter it for that. So then when the auditing system happens, it doesn't count it as double billing. And it doesn't count against your total for the day, so that you get a warning, bill 16 hours a day, that doesn't count. That.
I'll bring up the,
Timekeeping.
so here, is where you'll see it. It'll be a drop down to, you'll come in when you hit it. to enter time, it'll pull you in automatically, and then you could choose whoever is appropriate.
For every
Yeah.
company being integrated, you have to actively choose somebody else, otherwise.
Yeah, this video is a little out of date right now. So yeah, in one of the columns, it will have the attorney, just like, can you go a little bit further to generate? And you can see a better view of that. I know it's a short changeover.
Maybe that's not.
Is that this? Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is. So you can see we've searched for attorney test 3. That was the only person that had entered time on this case. But if there were multiple, that would be blank and would have all of them. So in that far right column that says attorney staff, it should just say attorney, but it will have all of the people that have time entries that are getting billed on that case. So that's a better example.
That's just report time. Yes, out of court time is just general time of the day.
Correct.
Not every, but I have 3 court appearances all at the same time. I have 10, 15, 10, 15, 30, 10:30, 10:45, so it's still on the same day.
Yeah, if they're not overlapping.
Overlap.
Yeah, 100%.
If the time. you
Overlap.
write for the exact same, double minutes, for example, you're trying to enter more than an hour in an hour.
Yeah, yep. And again, it's only for the ones that you're specifically in place. We're very conscious of that.
We understood that working from an office, we didn't want specific time. You know, you're sitting here typing a motion, you take a phone call, you respond to an email. It would be a nightmare to enter each of those as individual specific times. We recognize that. But when you're scheduled to be somewhere in a courtroom, I don't know.
Sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
Southern County has the rule, we have to have it submitted 45 days. That's still correct.
Right now, yes. Local rule, that has nothing to do with us. Yeah.
Our rule is 90, the statutory law on this is to be reimbursed, and the reason they have a 45-day rule is, it's a 90-day rule for the state. By statute, the bill has to be submitted within 90 days at the end of the month in which the case was disposed. So if you finish the case today, you have 90 days from the end of this month to get it to the state for processing. So I'm assuming the 45-day rule here, so that the offices, the court and the fiscal office still have plenty of time to process it to get it to us. It's the single biggest reason for denial of bills across the state.
Certification. You have to do for entering the charter. One, all of the charges listed, for example, every single get our legal case. One, charge video 36 7. We have all 36 7.
We do. Yeah.
Okay, it's, I love the bill.
That's gonna be a local decision, I feel like.
The bill for creating bill.
So hopefully they're not,
We have an administrative tax.
Oh.
As a type, so.
and
I mean,
hopefully
unless there's a local rule against it, sorry, Matt.
Yeah,
Unless there's a local rule against it, it is part of your time on the case.
and hopefully that they're not all different. Every single one. So if there's the same ORC, same number, you right click and say copy charge as many times as you want.
Yeah, I've had.
That's a little better.
I've had cases, check fraud cases, where you have forgery count, 42 counts of it. And it's really easy to copy it 42 times instead of having to pull down each of those statements. It's enter it once and then copy.
The dispositions is where it's gonna get you.
Yes, sir. So when you show me, you don't have here those preset. It's, yeah, the form has 3 in its present iteration because of the paper limitation. The system is an implementation.
Some savvy people who know a right click, you know, we gotta hide some things for the future.
You have to put on every chart. We'd like it to track it. The only reason it's limited is paper size today. We've always said, we'd always like to track it.
Follow.
Just years.
Yes,
If it's income, please.
yes. Yeah, and here we take the highest charge for the cap. So, like I said, related cases, we want the primary to be the highest, but if you enter them into the system on one case, it will pull. If there's an F1, then 52 M4s, you'll still get the highest cap, and you just kind of.
For your education, people have asked, what about prelims? Prelims are still in the, they're not part of this March 1st rollout. It's cases that are in common pleas. That's not in common pleas until it's valid.
Yes.
So under this current format, we have to manually, type in the identification of the client, correct?
Manually type in the required information before pieces.
Has there been any thought to integrating this current Summit County system where we receive our appointments automated checks?
Of course, the problem is that there are way too many, and the amount of APIs and money and time and connections,
There are hundreds of courts.
too great.
Well, when you start counting your juvenile court, your municipal court, your common pleas court, they all use different systems. There's not a single use system. And many of them that do use the same system, use them differently. They don't have the same fields stored at the same places across that important system or across whatever they're generating this out of. That is an impossibility for us to keep up with on any meaningful way, that many variances. This is one of those, I know it's anathema to talk about unified courts. If this were a unified court state, we could do that easily. With the hundreds of variations, changes that happen without us being notified, it's an impossibility. And I'm sorry.
And the proprietary stuff, the cost. Enormous.
Yeah, so, for example, I have two cases that are.
I think we need to.
Well, we can repeat too, yeah. Well,
And I'm bouncing between one court and the other. Waiting to be from. I was here in this case, that case, I'm going back and back. And I said, Bill, it's not gonna be nice little chunk and nice little chunk. Am I gonna have to go minute by minute?
No, we understand those kinds of things happen. If you're doing that for an hour and a half, 45 minutes. And pick those, we understand there's gonna be stuff, to the exact timing. But what you can't do is build an hour and a half on both.
Okay, and my concern too is if I'm gonna in chunks. That judge is gonna look at that and say, well, hey, this was set at 10 and you started billing for this appearance half an hour late. So you were late, but I wasn't late, I was bouncing back and forth.
In terms of the
So,
court looking
I
at that
read- yeah.
detail and sending you a note back, I assume that would get comment, you could note
Okay.
back that. I was going back and forth, and that's what the case was called.
Right, yeah, I'm just concerned about trading the fact that like, I'm not
that'd be,
there on.
fingers crossed doesn't happen, but there'll be training, yeah.
Yeah.
Discussions, I'm sure, going forward.
Andrew,
And do you want to do that last slide, just?
I figured, I didn't know if you said enough about a notification.
Of course,
I think it's-
absolutely, and my hope is most judges do recognize that it's common to be running back and forth, if you're a regular appointed counsel or a public defender, that is a common feature of your life. But we will absolutely make sure we.
Obviously, on the front end, you're not integrated with our system. I'm assuming on the back end with auditor, you're not integrated with their system either. So basically, they're maybe printing off a register and they're gonna have to cut checks for each of those things. That kind of how that's gonna work for each case. Yeah, or for each attorney that's gonna get paid.
As they do now, the auditor has to pay a warrant on each case. The system, and we are actually having a meeting with the fiscal office, and as I said, we've already been working with fiscal staff in the county. There's an export function of Excel data that they can choose the field in Excel and export it out. From their system, they can then import those fields as well, so they can bulk process, but that's again a local issue. We provided the ability to get out data in an Excel spreadsheet.
Because I guess where I'm going with that is, if depending on how it is, you have an opportunity for errors in the dollar amount. Whereas if you export it,
It's
and
a
import it,
clean
then it
export.
reduces that.
No, they're never gonna, there should never be the
Typing.
transcription problem that you're referring to. And one of those that we're hoping to solve today
Yep.
by doing a lot of this, because that happens now.
Oh, just before, we do have the videos that we put up here, are on our website. OPD On-line.gov/reimbursement, or you just scan the QR code. This is kind of something we just decided to spin up for you guys. Our full training portal will be behind your actual login. So we'll have all of this information and extra information and walkthroughs and other things, but the videos that we did here, we wanted to at least have available in case you're like, oh man, I don't remember something, or I want to show staff or other attorneys who couldn't make it, what it looks like. We thought we'd at least get that for you, so you have something to look at again, but, we have we'll have a full training area down the road.
access it now?
This
The
training,
training?
yes.
Yes.
This is
You
live
guys,
now.
Oh, the application or?
Can you access the actual database now? No, it goes live March.
Yeah, you'll get emails from us.
All right, so we
before.
can't start files now, we can't start.
Yeah, we're gonna
We
turn
can't,
it on March first.
again, because of our auditing side and payment side and all of those users in the system entering information, it goes live March first. From the support side of the world, obviously, we're available from now until then. We will physically be in Summit County that first week of March to help you to do individual entry. If you need to come over and want to go through one with us, we'll be, where will we be, Alex?
The Ohio Building, 7th floor, Wi-Fi council chambers, following background.
We'll be here the entire week. One of us, multiples of us will be here physically. Obviously, we're always available to set up live virtual meetings via Teams with you to go through that if it happens later and if you need more support.
But all of our cases that we're dealing with now won't be submitting BS.
If it's after March first, when you finish the case, that's when it goes in
Right.
this system.
Yeah.
If you submitted February 29th this year, since it's a leap year, paper it. March first, even if you've been doing the case since last July,
Yeah.
if it disclosed, when you submit that fee out, March 1 is the date to switch to this system, regardless of when the case starts.
Did you have?
Speaking of getting paid,
Oh.
if you have not yet registered with the fiscal office for direct deposit,